With the cost of almost everything on the rise these days, the price of gas is among the standouts. And while inflationary pressure is especially tough to control, the federal government is being urged to help where it can. With a closer look at that, we're joined right now by CTV News political analyst Scott Reid. Scott, thanks for being here this afternoon. Just about a week ago, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland gave a speech to the Empire Club in Toronto talking about how the federal government is sort of trying to help people through these times, but there was nothing new introduced there. Did that surprise you, and what did you expect to hear?
It did surprise me, and I think, frankly, it's an unsustainable political position. I mean, for the government to say, listen, if you're looking for an answer to the cost of living crisis is starting to invade every aspect of your life, good news, we've already dealt with it. And I just don't think that that is either believable or politically wise. The government has basically said that, it's not going to add any new measures. And, I'll just take something out of your intro, gas taxes. Mm-hmm. It's like gas tax relief. Yes, that would be a step back in terms of the climate agenda, but prices are soaring. The U.S. is going to drop their excise tax on gasoline later this week. If we don't take action there now, we'll take action there later, and the government will get no credit for it. So, yeah, I think that more retail on the street, where people live measures will happen, and I think that last week's speech will be forgotten pretty soon.
Scott, you touched on something interesting where the Trudeau government has been so upfront and so sort of environment first, ever since being elected in 2015, that it seems to me it might be, is it seen as a step down or perceived as a step down if they did decide to give some sort of gas tax holiday to people here? Or is it an issue with this agreement they have with the New Democrats here who would likely be opposed to something like this as well?
All of the above. It's a real challenge. If you're Justin Trudeau, the position you've taken is, day-to-day circumstance often confronts and contests your ability to take on something that's, such long horizon like climate change. But if we don't do it, then we'll never do it. I understand that. By the same token, gas prices are soaring. People want relief now. And so, from my perspective, I do think the government is going to have to just, go to where the problem is. Either that or face a real political peril in terms of the consequences. And as you say, if it says, listen, there's going to be a holiday given, some temporary relief on gas, on the excise tax on gas, in order to tell people we get it, we're trying to help, well, then the NDP, who also support the climate agenda and who have this agreement in Parliament with them, may well say, hang on, we're not for that. That's the great challenge of being in government. You're going to have to make some pretty ugly choices.
And two words you said there really key there, Scott. You talked about temporary relief, not just sort of permanent relief from gas taxes, but temporary relief, because it kind of brings up the question, the prices now are hovering around $2, maybe a little over, a little under, depending on where you live, per liter of regular unleaded. We know that's high, but I mean, what's the threshold? I mean, if it drops to $1.50, do you bring the taxes back in? That's the other side to this coin too, right? Is where do you then reintroduce them, or how do you reintroduce them as people kind of get used to it?
I think that's absolutely right. But if the Prime Minister wants to square his climate agenda with the need to address the cost of living crisis, he's going to have to ring fence it. And he's going to have to say, listen, this is a move we take reluctantly, but we know this is a tangible way that we can provide a little bit of relief for people on a day-by-day basis. And then he can set conditions, and he can say, look, it's time-stamped. We'll review it in 8 months, or we will review it if inflation, drops below 4% again. You can pick your metric, and then you're going to have to live with it. But I think that obviously saying I'm going to have a permanent relief, that's not saleable. And I also think saying I'm going to do nothing and just allow this issue to fester. I mean, if you can't fix the causes of inflation, and you can't, it is a global phenomenon, then you at least must help people mitigate the negative effects of it. And if your answer is we've already done everything we're going to do, well, don't expect their vote.
That is so true. Okay, and of course, votes is all of what it comes down to when it comes to election time. Thanks for helping us break this down and understand it a little more. Scott Reid, CTV political analyst. Always appreciate the time.
Thanks, Nick.